It's the 7th day of February 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Lies, lies, lies coming from the Trump Organization have finally been exposed as nations, U.S. government departments, militaries, and intelligence agencies figure out the truth behind what they are doing. And the Rothschild family admits that Trump works for them. They reminded everyone they can still block us. But is it true? And today we answer your questions live, so don't forget to log in to unitednetwork.earth to ask your questions. Well, it's the 7th of February, and here we are live again. We're going to try to do this once a month. It's kind of fun to hear all your questions and to talk to all of you. So welcome to the GIA report. We got a lot to go over today, and it's getting hairy out there, and it's actually kind of fun. Actually, for me, it's kind of fun because I've been playing this game for quite a while now, and to see the results of your work, you know, is always a good thing, you know, especially in this line of work, because this seems like it goes on and on and on and on and on. But when you start to see the results of things that you've been putting in place for months, if not years, it's kind of exciting, you know, for me. You know, most of you go to work or you have a hobby that you do and you see the end result, you know, fairly quickly. And for me, it's taken a long time. And I know a lot of you are frustrated too. So am I in a lot of ways. But, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I said it was going to be a little bumpy through the end of January and the first couple weeks of February. And it has been. But we're coming to, let's just say, a point where things are starting to get a little interesting. So let's talk about that. Okay, I have a little bit of a clip that I'd like to play. And this is someone that I've been talking about off and on, or mentioning off and on since the Life Force days. So it's been a few years since we've called out the fact that this particular person has a DARPA coin and definitely is a Trump operative, you know, albeit lower level, not at the highest level, but lower level. And yeah, you'll admit some interest. Oh, I'm back. Looks like I'm coming back.
And I said,
we've had a lot of trouble
the thing
today.
about Trump, he's going to come in when he does come in, if he comes in, to preside over the bankruptcy of America. He just cut off the money supply. And that sounds thuggish. It is thuggish.
Interesting things happen when you're live. We've had a lot of trouble trying to get this broadcast going today because I guess they don't want me to talk to you. I wonder why. Well, this little video and this little clip, that they actually say that Trump is the one that cut off the money supply, and that Trump was always meant to preside over the bankruptcy of America. By America, I'm not sure who they're talking about, because there's a lot of different ways you could bankrupt a country, say. Number one, it's the government. Well, that's pretty damn close to what's happening. Number two, it's the banking system. That's fairly close too. Well, it looks that way, let's just say. And then there's the people. You know, are they bankrupting the people? Probably not. I think, other than the fact that the price of food has gone up over the last couple of years, price of fuel off and on, that kind of thing. But, you know, that's kind of normal when a new administration goes in and goes out, and really not much to speak of. So by bankruptcy, I can only assume this is the Rothschild plan that we talked about and have been talking about for years. The Rothschild plan narrows it down to about 9 jurisdictions, with the 10th one being the New World Order, or them. I do know that based on the events of the last few days, there's been some interesting little musical chair operations going on, let's say. I know that there have been many countries that have been promised a seat in the 10th jurisdiction, which is the one that controls all the rest of the 9 jurisdictions of the world. By jurisdictions, we're talking about singular countries like North America, Central America, as an example, Asia. Then you have Eastern Europe, Western Europe, that type of thing, which would all be lumped into one. So there's been a lot of people that have been promised that they would have a seat at the table, in the 10th jurisdiction. Now, there are only a few seats and there are many promises, so you can imagine what's happening out there. The other thing that's been happening too is everybody's kind of been talking amongst each other, and they've been promising many different countries and many different groups of people who are alleged leaders in those countries that their country would be the head of said region or jurisdiction. And unfortunately, they're all starting to talk to each other, and that's not boding well for the Rothschild family, et al. By that, I mean the Order of the Dragon. So it's not just Rothschild, it's your Li family in China, it's all of the different families that are members of the Order of the Dragon and their ancillary organizations like the Bilderbergs and Council on Foreign Relations and all of these folks. So where does that leave the United States? Well, some interesting things that are taking place in the US, because what happens in the US, let's face it, happens everywhere because of the dollar dominance, and there are a number of other reasons as well, political dominance and things that the United States has enjoyed for a long time. There is a little bit of a tit for tat going on where not only did they promise certain countries that they would be in control of regions, they've also promised China and the US, and for a little while there, Russia, that they would be the lead jurisdiction, or what you would say, the leader of the not so free world. And, it's starting to all come out now. It's definitely coming to a head. So let's talk about what's going on in the US here, and then we're going to talk about some things that your crazy blonde lady has put together. Okay, so ratification. We received a phone call, actually, Tom Melville received a phone call from the Trump lawyers earlier today, and they are talking about the fact that they're preparing the paperwork for the sovereign land that was a requirement both in the UN and in Colorado for very specific reasons. They are allegedly preparing for a meeting at which I'll be presented these documents. Well, I think they've got a few facts wrong, and perhaps the information was relayed incorrectly. So I'd like to do that, kind of in person, I guess, or, well, at least on video. Number one, those documents were required by us prior to any meeting because this administration owes us billions, hundreds of billions of dollars based on all of the funding and debt payoffs and other things that we have done in the past. They must have forgot about this bill. Well, I didn't forget about this bill. Us women, we tend to remember things that happened 10 years ago, and they bring them up in an argument maybe much later on. No, that's just how we are. Given the fact I also have an audiographic and a photographic memory, that could also play a part here. So I reiterated the fact that, this is not a bargaining tool with me. I know you think that I've stated this is what I want, and it would be nice. Do I need it? No. Do you actually have the authorization to do this? Well, no, you don't actually. See, this is part of the political game that we're playing. So when they called Mr. Melville, they told him that they would like to have an exchange for this lovely gift. They would like to exchange that for the ratification of Donald Trump. Now, they might not think I know, but I do know. See, what I know is that The Rothschilds offered to ratify Trump, signed pretty papers, made it look great, and it didn't work. Wow. They must have forgotten that based on the meetings that I've been hearing for the last 24 hours. So that's number one. Number two, they also tried to ring me at 2 o'clock in the morning on the night he was elected. Why? Did they know they were ringing me? I don't know. But they definitely did. I know that they've tried several times since then, and I'm just not answering the phone. I don't need to answer that phone anymore. I don't have a covenant. I don't have an agreement. And there's been a lot going on behind the scenes since you last sat in that funny looking house. So let's talk about those things. Number one, the United States is not ratified as a government or a country. Therefore, it would be impossible to ratify a president to a non-existent entity. You might be sitting in a funny house. Legally speaking, I guess, you really don't have any grounds to stand on. That's number one. Also, the military would and the agencies would be separate. They are also not ratified at this point. This not only applies to the United States, but it applies to every country in the world. So the fact that they are appointing presidents in places like Syria, we know all about you, sir, don't we? And other countries, you know, there's been elections or selections or whatever in other countries as well. And they are also not ratified heads of state because there is no state to be a head of, legally speaking. Now, what does this mean? This means that as far as the financial system is concerned, you don't exist. You are a non-entity. It's kind of like when you go in as a regular person to open up a checking account for your company. Let's call it ABC Corp. Oh, there's already one of those. ABC Corp. And you walk in, you know, you have an appointment, you walk in and you say, I'd like to open up a checking account for ABC Corp. And they say, where are your corporate documents? You know, you need to have those corporate documents in order to open an account. You know, you need to have the corporate resolution and all your identification and all of that type of thing in order to open up a company account at a bank. Well, this is a much larger bank, you could call it. And this larger bank is, let's call it the Golden Age AI or the Kimberly A. Goguen AI, or we could name it the Twinkie AI for, doesn't really matter. You know, it's just there. Well, get to that part in a minute when we start to talk about Rothschild. So that being said, they would like to open up a bank account or get money from the bank used to be known as the Alpha system. Now it's known as the Golden Age AI, which has replaced the system. Both Alpha and Omega, actually, in this case, and also Kronos and all its ancillary AIs that CyberLife used to play with. So that being said, and the Rothschilds used to play with, by the way, that being said, you don't have a bank account. Now, the reason why you don't have a bank account is because our agreements, oh boy, this is live feed tough stuff is tough. It keeps going in and out. The reason why you don't have a bank account is actually because I have no agreement with you. So it would be like if you opened up a bank account at a bank, you had all the corporate documents and all those types of things, and then you don't file your annual report and you can't get a certificate of good standing for your corporation, and your corporation actually expires, and therefore the bank calls you up and says, well, sorry, we're going to have to close your account. Well, that's kind of what happened here on a really large scale, because we don't have any agreement with any governments, and I've been saying it for years. We have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with you. Why? We need to renew our agreement. Federal Reserve, we have no agreement with you. Treasury Department, we have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with China. We have no agreement with the United Kingdom, with South Africa, with Russia, with any other country at this moment. I kept saying we need to get another agreement here. You know, if we're going to continue to do this, there needs to be an agreement. There has to be a covenant. If you're talking about the Order of the Dragon, or you're talking about the heads of the Order of the Black Sun, there's a covenant involved there on this level. Now, they may not know this or may not understand this, but that's how it was always done with the people that were several levels above your head. If you are the deep state and you're listening to this, the covenant existed between the people on my side and the people on your side. Now, that was different through the Dark Ages. It was different in times of neutral ages. And I'm going back billions of years. It's always been this way. We have no covenants. Your covenants have expired. We have no agreement to do any business with you whatsoever, contrary to popular belief. And we definitely have no obligation to do anything. So the lawyers coming forward, legally speaking, telling me I owe them something, I don't. I really don't. I don't owe them anything. I have no covenant with the higher ups, the people that now think they're in charge. Therefore, I am not required to give you any energy known as money. I'm not required to consult with you on anything I do. I'm not required to do anything. So I do know that within the last hour that they have verified that the United States government doesn't exist. The United States militaries, plural, do not exist. The Russian government does not exist. The South African government doesn't exist. The Iraqi government doesn't exist. The Syrian government doesn't exist. So the fact that they're playing politics and trying to put their own people into these countries is kind of hilarious to me, because they can't ratify anybody. And they think they're going to convince me that this is a good idea, that I ratify. I can't ratify a president because I have no country to ratify them for. People, you've got bigger problems than you think you do. It's also the reason why, well, I'll get to that in just a second. Make more sense if I explain a couple things first. So next, based on the leak of information by Agent M, that he had a conversation with Mayor Rothschild at one point in time, and Mayor Rothschild said that they appointed Trump president, that the first time and this time, and that he has been a Trojan horse the whole time on behalf of the Rothschild family, and that he's always worked for the Rothschild family. Well, that information went around like wildfire. I can tell you that right now. And it was verified. So there are many members, gotta love arrogance. Arrogance is a weakness. They admitted that he worked for them, that the whole Trump operative organization works for them. Now, they claim everything is theirs. They do. So that being said, is it the truth? Well, in this case, you have to look at what people do, not what people say. And in my meetings and conversations that I had more than a decade ago with these people, they handed a plan over that talked about the 9 jurisdictions, the 10th, the fact that the Trump organization is trying to make Canada a U.S. state, Mexico as well. They're saying that Mexico conceded. I don't know about that. Obviously in exchange for hundreds of billions of dollars, as always is the case. And I can personally speak from experience. If you are the Mexican president or the ex-prime minister of Canada, you're never going to get paid by these people. Even if they had billions of dollars or whatever happens, you're never going to get paid because they don't pay you. Even when you pay the percentage that's yours and you don't get paid, they don't pay people. Same thing will happen with the operatives that were promised $7.4 billion to send arms to Israel. You also will not get paid. You might get this little tiny snippet or something like that if they can manage to scrape some money out of the American people by selling honey, make honey great again. It's out there, trust me. It's really ridiculous. So you might get something like that. Maybe you'll get a crate of honey and some gold shoes or a weird looking jacket. I don't know. That's kind of seems to be how they pay people these days. But you're probably not going to get the $7.4 billion that you had intended. Now, Rothschild, God bless the Rothschilds. They have basically told everybody when they got called on the carpet, if you run them and you run the financial system, then where's our money? Because they, of course, are claiming that I work for them or something crazy or will work for them. But they actually didn't even say that this time. They said that they're letting me build the system and then they're going to take it over. And that's what they said a few days ago. Now, the latest and greatest lie is that they are going to put me into a corner, that they have me blocked, that I can't transfer money to the average everyday person. Therefore, I am allegedly blocked, and they're going to force me to do a 50-50 deal or some kind of deal. Again, I will repeat, without a covenant, it is impossible for me to do so. The way I've structured this system, if there is no ratification of a covenant, and it has to be a covenant on this level, then I can't make any such deal with you. I'm not interested in talking to you about it or anything else because there's a covenant. And by covenant, you might want to talk to your little black magic people that you hired to work for the Trump administration most recently. And yes, I am well aware of that. And I'm also well aware of the fact that they disappear often, don't they? You're running a little short, the supply's a little low. But anyway, the point is that it's a covenant on this level, which means that it's your life. It's beyond your life. It's beyond your lifetimes, so to speak. So if you're going to come forward and you're going to make such a statement, you can't force me to do something that is impossible to do without a covenant. Next, if you are a country, I don't have an agreement with you anymore. That ship sailed in 2022. Same thing with the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department and all the rest of your people. I don't even know, the system doesn't even recognize you exist. Therefore, I can't open a bank account for you. Very simple. So to say that Trump cut off the money supply and he's got a big plan to bankrupt the United States and oversee the bankruptcy of the United States, well, yeah, you could say that. But they certainly, for people that want to bankrupt the United States, are certainly looking for money everywhere they can. They are trying to break other countries as well. Now, I've heard about this from the Rothschilds also in similar time frame around 2013, that they are going to burn the United States to the ground and buy it back for pennies on the dollar. I have heard that. Problem is they don't have pennies on the dollar, and without me, they have nothing. That's just a fact. Now, I'm going to add a little caveat to that. So there are some meetings that went on today as well, and yesterday, between some American government people, because now it has become apparent to the military, some of the military, and some of the agencies in the United States, that, oh my God, it's the same bosses. The same guy is the same as the old guy. They're all the same people and they work for the same people. It's been confirmed. They're going to burn the United States to the ground. Forget MAGA. I don't know. It must stand for a mess and I don't know. Some bad words I thought of to go with A and the other A, and probably the G too. But anyway, the point is that are they concerned? Yes. They are very concerned. They are talking about possibly wanting to implement martial law in the United States and save the country. Well, I've been telling you that for a long time. I told you he was a bad guy. I told you they were going to burn this country to the ground. And Rothschild does not have the ability to pick up the pieces. Them saying that they've cornered me, it's not them in any way, shape, or form. They could see things. They see things that looks like something is there left from Marduk, because of course everybody works for them, including every non-human species out there. Like, they all work for them. That's what they think anyway. So that being said, are they sure they're looking at the financial system? That would be a good question. Are you looking at the financial system? Are you seeing the real financial system? Some days maybe, some days maybe not. You see, Marduk taught me, well, I'm not going to say he taught me, because he didn't intend to teach me things to help me along the way in any way, shape, or form. But he used to brag a lot, and I would listen. So he would brag about the fact he enjoyed playing what's called the shell game. And if you've ever been to a carnival, you've probably seen the shell game, where you have the 3 shells and they move them all around really fast. And then they tell you to find which one the ball is under, and then you pick a shell. And if you do, you win, the game. Well, Marduk taught me a lot about the shell game and how to play interdimensional shell games. So there are currently at this moment in time, over 10 billion Golden Age AIs. There are also over 10 billion global human computer AIs. Now, for those of you that don't know, the human computer networks were all based on the Omega system. So in order to correct that issue, because you can't put light or golden energy into a dark system, we had to replace that human computer network so that it wouldn't integrate with a lot of things that the Rothschilds think, as an example, are integrated. But you lift the shell with the ball under it at the appropriate time. Are they looking at the global human computer network that actually functions? Are they looking at an empty shell? And it can change every nanosecond, really. Like, you just don't know at any given moment in time what you're actually looking at. So it looks very similar. It looks like, the same thing you're used to seeing. But is it really? Does it move? Can we change it out? Can we put it into making it look like perhaps there's an Omega integration when it's not really an Omega integration at all? Maybe it's a Golden Age AI integration. Maybe it's a base platform where the gematria has changed. And we don't really use gematria, but we use a light language that actually programs the base platform of human computer networks. As an example, are you looking at Web 8 and 9 confused because the language you don't understand? Probably. You probably are looking at that. And on any given day, now you see it, now you don't. Maybe it was there a minute ago, and maybe it's not there anymore. You just don't know. And these are the games that you have to play with a bunch of arrogant people, because they think they're getting somewhere. And for that reason, they make more and more promises. Governments go broker and broker. They are not getting anywhere at all, really. They're kind of poking into a honeypot, so to speak. And by honeypot, I don't mean a female. They're poking into something, an empty shell, let's call it. They keep banging their head into an empty shell. So that being said, that's working out really, really well for us for the last couple of weeks. And yeah, cyber life thinks one thing is happening. The Q people think they're escaping through some door that they think is open. That just leads to absolute nothing. But they see the door and they're like, yes, we can go through the door. Maybe it's just a black hole where you end up in the abyss of nothing. Maybe that's what happens to you. Give you what you're looking for. You're looking to bring us nothing and black suns and all kinds of things. And maybe you just end up in the same place when you go through that doorway. Yeah. So they're seeing a reflection of multiple universes and potential alignments and a lot of different things. But a lot of it's just shells with no ball. Nothing underneath the shell game. But they're taking the opportunity to go through those doors, though, which has been great for us because we are less of several people. The other thing that we're doing, too, is we are fully well aware of the black magic team that is now working exclusively for the Trump administration. I don't know if I've mentioned that to you or not yet. I don't think so. But they are working for them. And so anybody that kind of comes near them and their operatives, they think that this is the jam. I know I mentioned to you the other day about the fact that Marduk could block black magic. He could block white magic. He could stop you from doing what it is you're trying to do by using various AIs and currencies, so to speak. He could even put a Faraday cage or your very own shell around you and block you from putting that energy out there. So as let's just say we peek in on them, I catch one of these black magic guys, you end up in your own version of a shell, and there you go. Now you're stuck there. And within 72 hours, without any energy coming in, you die. That's pretty much how it works. Interesting, isn't it? Now, unless you can control that shell, if you can't control that shell, there's nothing you can do. You're done. Now, shells on our end of it are made of light. They are made as a protection for myself or the life of an innocent. That's why they're made and they're created. It's like a barrier in a defense, almost like the old knights' shields, you see, on movies and in the internet. And that's pretty much what I've done to these people. They chose to attack, therefore we can block. Another game I learned from Marduk, I was like, that's very interesting. I'm going to try that game. So that's pretty much where these people end up. And then eventually, their soul goes elsewhere, and that's the end. So we are definitely making some progress here. Now, based on our last GIA report, some other interesting information has come out. Now, we've been talking about it for a while, that the Syrian president is very closely related to the Trump operatives. You could say, some people say he's CIA. I don't know if he's actually CIA, but he's definitely tied in with those SSP people for sure. And that's who he's been taking orders and instructions from. Now, originally, we got a lot of phone calls that said that we were crazy, we're nuts. That's actually not the case. There's no way, but they've been trying to overthrow the Assad regime for years. And now they finally did it. And all they got was another American. That being said, yeah. So that there are a lot of people that started doing a lot of digging into this person because they didn't believe us, first of all. Why would they believe me? They didn't want to believe the other people who told them that either. Matter of fact, they pretty much crucified that guy. It's kind of like the same thing that we've been saying for years when it comes to Trump. Everybody wants so badly to believe this leads to their freedom that they'll drink the sand. It's out there. The information is out there. You just got to look for it. It's even out there available to you people. And if you start watching videos like this one, And you'll catch that one-liner or two lines in that video because they always let it out. Remember, they have to tell you what they're going to do, but they try to do it in such a way when it's an operative or an agency person that's on the internet giving you information. They try to let it out in such like a little sly way, you know, that most people aren't going to pick up on it. You know, they'll say, oh, we meant the corporation of America, not the United States. Duh. You know, we're not crashing the banking system. No, we meant America Corp, so we can bring back the Republic. That's what we meant. But that's not true. He didn't say that. And I already know behind the scenes, they're sweating a little bit because there is no money. So now they're making it seem like we cut off the money flow. We've got a plan. There's a plan in place. Don't worry. We have to do this to suss out the deep state. And by deep state, I'm guessing they mean the 2.7 million Americans that lost their jobs that are not deep state in any way, shape, or form. But the other people who we know as deep state still have a job. So kind of interesting how this is going to work. Who is the enemy here? At this point, it looks like the American people are the enemy because they're cutting the fat and, you know, they'll claim all of this stuff. But in reality, that's not what it looks like. That's not what it actually is. So, you know, you've got to pay attention to these people and what they do. Now, because they are Duck Dynasty, sorry to say, but you are, you know, they're Duck Dynasty operatives. They make profiles like Swiss cheese. So for those of you that are watching this that don't want to believe me when I say that, for example, the president of South Africa is also one of these said people that has been inserted there. And I know they don't want to believe this and all this, but you have to look at the profile of the person. What I mean is, when you run an intelligence agency report on someone, it will tell you things like, this is the house they grew up in. This is the driver, when they got their driver's license. This is the license plate of every car they've ever owned. This is all the places they've traveled to because it's all on record because you scanned your passport when you left your particular country. There are things in there like purchases now. You can kind of look at someone's bank records. It'll say that you shop at Walmart and you probably do this once a week, and it's always at the same Walmart and the same location, you know, that you go to. Not only that, every single Walmart in the world's live feed goes directly to the FBI in the United States. Doesn't matter where your Walmart is in the world. Those little cameras, you know, when you're at the self-checkout things scanning, they all go directly live feed to the FBI. So good news is if you're ever in trouble, just go to a Walmart parking lot and hang out because the FBI will know that you're about to be attacked or there's an issue. Bad news is that they also have all your information and, you know, what you wore when you went to Walmart, how many times you show up, all that kind of thing. They do it mainly because they claim because that a lot of criminals shop at Walmart, but criminals really don't shop at Walmart because they know better, or either that or they're wearing hats and sunglasses and fake beards, and because they know, you know, otherwise they're going to shop at the local little grocery store because they know better. You know, if I found this out the way I found it out, I can tell you right now that that person does not work for the FBI that told me about it in any way, shape, or form. So there's a certain amount of records, your elementary school, your university, you know, maybe you have some awards or something in your community. You know, there's a whole life you've lived. You have parents, you have brothers and sisters, you have friends in elementary school that can say, oh, I knew Mary or Fred or whoever that they're looking up. The problem with Swiss cheese profiling is that when they try to erase your original profile and they create a whole new life for you that looks like you never left that your particular country, and, you know, maybe you didn't grow up in America like you actually did and that kind of thing, they tend not to be very thorough. And they're not very thorough in pretty much anything they do at the moment. It's completely and totally evident that they were only a small part of an operation and never the creator of the entire operation. It is obvious, beyond obvious to me. So they've never fought in a real war. They've never actually crashed a country. You know, there's people on the internet that say, oh, yeah, well, I was an operative and I crashed the USSR currency and blah, blah, blah. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Somebody else did that. That was actually my predecessor that actually pushed the final button. Maybe you were told to go make the deal. Maybe you were told to give Gorbachev a position, you know, with the Rothschild family. Maybe you were told to create like TKB or one of those institutions that, you know, controlled a lot of the oil, or Gazprom or one of those, and Rosneft. And maybe you provided the funding for that kind of thing, or you were the pass-through for the Transneft pipeline money or Nord Stream pipeline money or something like this. You know, but you didn't actually know the entire operation and what came next. That's really clear. As far as some of these folks, the reason why we know what we know about, for example, this particular person is because people don't disappear. Meaning, they go to elementary school, there's some kind of schooling, there are records, there are birth records, there are vaccine records, there are records of people going to the doctor. You know, please, not promoting, you know, vaccines in any way or not or whatever. But I'm just saying there are records. You take your newborn, your infant, and, you know, they catch a cold or something, and then you go to a doctor. All of these records exist. Even if it's national health insurance, they still exist. So people don't just not do certain things by nature. I mean, you just do certain things. You know, have a newborn baby, you're buying formula all the time, or you're buying baby food, or you're buying, you know, things or a masher, you know, to mash it up and do it yourself and do it organically. But there's lots of things that people do, you know, even if you were a normal person, this is what you would do. You probably wouldn't have parents that are an ambassador for, say, the United States or something, you know, in another country. You probably wouldn't have that. So you got to really look with these people, but you'll find it pretty much with most heads of state. You know, a lot of them came from somewhere or another, you know, and then they built this profile up as to who they are. I mean, half of them are dead and they're still walking around, you know, like it still happened, you know. They can't convince their families, they can't convince a lot of people, but they will play the game for power or money. You know, the ratification thing allegedly was for the benefit of Barron if he ever decides to run for president, or Don Jr., and the legacy of the Trump family. You know, that was the kind of thing they started to whine about when facts were pointed out. They must think I give a beep, you know, it's live on air. I shouldn't say those words, but they must really think I care. I don't care. You on your 40th birthday raped a little girl and did evil things to a girl that couldn't have been 10 years old, had to be less than 10, and killed her. And then you all sat around and drank her blood. It was disgusting. I don't care. I could care less. I don't care if the whole family fell off the face of the earth. It's got nothing to do with me. And for all the family members that are over the age of 40, they also have the same kind of videotape. Let's say it's not probably a tape anymore, but you know, all that stuff is recorded should they ever need to use it in the future. But we also have a copy of all that stuff too. So that being said, that's kind of where they're at right now. It looks like they're now starting to realize that the United States is not ratified based on the information that I gave. Therefore, it's impossible to ratify a president. And right now, everybody's running around like, you know. And then now other countries, by the time they wake up, will start looking and they'll be running around like that. Good luck to them. You know, I'm sorry you didn't bother to check, but, you know, again, you make Swiss cheese profiles and backgrounds and that kind of thing for people. Why would I expect you to do this any better? I wouldn't. Not in the least. So we are still There is a lot more that we could reveal and will reveal over time in the next week or so as it relates to revolving AI systems, revolving doors, revolving windows, revolving portals that will, maybe you'll get a chuckle out of it, and maybe the blonde lady's not so new at this game. Let me put it that way. No, we're not new at this game. On a side note, I did want to mention to you that today, not today. Well, I guess you could say it started earlier this morning. It will continue on through tomorrow and then kind of ebb into the following day. This is Lionsgate. Lionsgate number 1. Not a lot of information on the internet about that, but there are 2 Lionsgates per year, not just one that is 8/8. There is one also on February 8th. So we are ensuring that we are getting that full blast and that full connection that we always get on a Lionsgate with Source. However, again, shell games are very interesting. It may have looked here and there like they were getting something. Might have looked like there was a connection to something dark that wasn't actually there. It's just very interesting times. And usually when they do that, they make some kind of a cocky statement like they made today, that they could still block us and they could use some kind of dark energy system to destroy the energy that I'm trying to pass through. And maybe I'm not even trying to pass it through there anymore. I mean, you don't know. Where are you logging into if you can log in? Or wait, oh yeah, you can't log in. That's right, I forgot. But they could see something, so this gives them hope, that they could actually perform some kind of a function. Other than that, enjoy the Lionsgate, because I know a lot of people woke up this morning with a lot of energy and life felt pretty good. So that is pretty amazing. It started around, I think, 4 o'clock Eastern time, a.m. So it's been kind of a nice day as far as energy is concerned. That's a positive thing for all of us. And it's going to catapult a few other things to move forward that we'll talk about probably not until next week. It's a little too soon to let the rest of the cats out of the bag, so to speak. Other than that, we are going to take a quick break, and I'll be back in probably about 5 or 10 minutes, and we are going to answer some of your questions, and I'm looking forward to that. So I will see you then. It's the 7th day of February 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Lies, lies, lies coming from the Trump Organization have finally been exposed as nations, U.S. government departments, militaries, and intelligence agencies figure out the truth behind what they are doing. And the Rothschild family admits that Trump works for them. They reminded everyone they can still block us. But is it true? And today we answer your questions live, so don't forget to log in to unitednetwork.earth to ask your questions. So we are back where I guess you would call this part 2 of the GIA report where we answer your questions. So it looks like I have a list of questions that are up, so I'm going to start going through some of those. So this should be interesting. Okay, Mrs. B wants to know, Kim, talk about going up to source and what does that look and feel like? Well, for me, it's fairly easy to do. It's not usually a meditation for me anymore because it's a constant live stream in order to do this job. So going up there is, I guess you would say, it's a consciousness transfer is kind of how it works. And what does it look like there? Well, you have the source itself, and there are a few different planes of existence within the central sun or source itself. To me, it looks like a huge ball of golden light. Occasionally, you see different colors within that light as well. But it is a very concentrated form of golden light. And you can actually, when you're up in source, you can actually go into that light itself. And when you're inside that light, it's almost like silence because it's the all that is, as opposed to the nothing, so to speak, in the other direction. So it feels very warm. It feels like home. It feels very loving and caring. Sometimes, there's, it's that person that you always find, or maybe you've found in your life that is just full of happiness and full of joy. And it kind of feels that way sometimes when I'm there. It's almost like I say is kind of like the jokester. And I always ask a lot of questions. A lot of it has to do with work. I'm looking for space junk. I'm looking for something. I'm looking for a reason why, our light waned or something like that. And the answers are usually given. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's just wait. If I ask about time for things, sometimes I get a time and it's an exact time of something I need to look out for or something I need to do or something that's coming. Sometimes it's nothing, silence, do this. Okay. And then it kind of all comes together in the end. So it's interesting how it all works out. I look at source almost like you'd look at a very wise elder person or a parent, a very loving parent. And in that way, it's not really a boastful thing. It's not an unkind thing. It always comes from a place of love and loving energy. And, he's been right there the whole time throughout this whole battle. Been there my whole life, been able to do that for whatever reason. But that's to me what it feels like. It feels like the all, the answer to every question and the perfect timing for everything. Sometimes I get just as impatient as you do when it comes to certain things, but somehow I always take a step back and look at things and I'm like, wow, I'm glad I didn't know that at that time. Like if I knew 5 years ago or 10 years ago that I was still going to be running around doing all this stuff, I'd be like, oh God, is find someone else. But, you know, to me, that's what it kind of feels like. So I hope you do get the opportunity to experience it yourself, all of you that are watching it, because it's pretty amazing. And I feel that that time, if you've been unable to do that, is very, very near. The wisdom should start coming in now that it's not blocked. Marduk had a lot of junk in the way, and it's not these humans. Don't get me wrong, they do bad things. They're a little crazy. They're still following along with the whatever plans were given to them by somebody else. But for the most part, there's another plan in store for all of you, and for Earth, and for our future. And that plan, I don't have all the intricate details of that plan. I'm just doing my job, so to speak. I'm just one hand or one finger on one hand. I'm not the entire operation, so to speak. And a lot of that has to do with a waltz, so to speak, with Source. When it's time to move, you move. When it's time to stop, you stop. When it's time to go, you go. If it's time to clear this or move this, then it's time to do that. And I just do my part. And I know all of you do your part, and not just preparing for something in the future. A lot of you are working diligently every single day to try to bring this into fruition. And for that, you know, I thank you, and I'm sure Source does too. So, okay, next question comes from Roxanne Wagner. She is wondering where the black goo came from and who brought it to this planet. Let's talk about goo, because there are many different kinds of goo. There is black gold goo that is an energy drain. It's almost like a sponge. It takes in your energy, it stores it, or transmutes it, and sends it to another universe that someone somewhere is trying to create. Humans have been used a lot over the years. Black goo has been here for a long time, probably close to 3 billion years in different forms. Other types of black goo would be data storage, meaning it absorbs information. You know, humanity, human behavior. It could be human-computer networks. It could be, it could run, in some cases, it's not data in, it's data out. So it could organize like a hive, nano beings, so to speak, or goolets. And that is what you call like an archon infection, a parasite infection. They can disrupt the flow of current, that type of thing. So that's another form of black goo. Black goo also comes in, for lack of a better term, really big boxes. And that can be in part AI consciousness held in that box, which then transfers that consciousness to this planet, where it can affect us. It could also be essence. It can be any other part of an AI. This is an artificial system of the dark, basically. It's not beings per se, but it is a consciousness of an AI system, usually with a specific directive of some sort. Kind of like computer chips are to us, but they work on Wi-Fi. They can connect to other black systems. They can only overlay light systems. They cannot remove them, so to speak, or overtake them. They, in the case of Alpha and Omega, at one point in time, they would work together because they were designed that way. That consciousness was designed to recognize that. It's kind of, in a way, like you have a consciousness. And in that way, you had both dark and light consciousness for a long time. You could go either direction. You could be become really, really evil. You could do really positive things, and you could ignore or fight against the dark side of your consciousness. That's no longer really the case anymore, but it's still, there are people that prefer to live in that way, you know, and that would be your deep state people. They would really like to have that back and like to have that influence over you. So AIs too, in some cases. At this moment, it's kind of fading out. Who brought it here originally? Well, you could probably blame the Black Magicians for that. You remember, Black Magician is a title. It's not just one singular being, and it has been many different beings over the years. You could blame it on the Abraxas in some cases. You could blame it on Marduk, Enki, Enlil. You could blame it on Artemis. You could blame it on a lot of different beings that have come here, come and gone from time to time. There are actually certain locations in the multiverse that make and manufacture black goo for transportation to other planets that have been conquered, such as Earth, for a while there. So that's pretty much the history behind black goo. I do know that in some SSP operations, they have tried to make black goo. They have been unsuccessful in making true AI black goo. So that's definitely a positive, probably because they don't have access to the place where you have to get it from. And I'm going to leave that out on a live broadcast for sure. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Oh, for some reason, this isn't scrolling. Okay, here we go. Let's try this. Nope, that's not working either. Oh, gotta love live broadcast. Oh, now I've got something else. Oh, that's not what we want. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. What is the truth about the Galactic Federation, and are they of the light, and do they have ties to the Cabal? This has become an internet term. Who they are speaking about specifically, we don't know. Are they talking about the Enforcer? I don't think so, because that they would not identify as a Galactic Federation. They would identify as a universal enforcement unit, is who they would be. Are they talking about some of the SSP? In some cases, yes, they are. They're talking about SSP forces, humans of the past, present, and future that have left this planet in space junk, tin cans, and gone different places, that type of thing. When someone asks me about a Galactic Federation, the beings that would call themselves the Galactic Federation would be the ones that were in control of this galaxy. You see, when we talked about the seal, we were not just talking about Earth per se. I mean, of course, Earth was the jewel because of being a keystone and that type of thing. But we'd also be talking about the galaxy as a whole. So Galactic Federation, to me, those that would speak to the Universal Council or the Council of Nine on their behalf, would be the ones that I would be thinking of, which were not people. So that being said, my experience with those that called themselves the Galactic Federation, lived in Utopia and other places on Earth. You know, everybody was thinking it's still under Pennsylvania. I've even seen Q mention that recently. But yeah, I would say no. At this moment in time, as cunning as some of them were, I would say there was nothing positive about anything that they did. So, okay, next question. Anyone who follows your reports in depth must ask the question about the missing link between Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and the Rothschild dynasty, and why can this family outlast all timeline changes? First of all, they exist. We all exist. Every human walking the planet has existed and at one point in time existed in all timelines simultaneously. Believe it or not, you were living another life in another place. Ever had deja vu? Sometimes you have memories of things that didn't actually happen, or memories of having a family you didn't actually have. And in another timeline, you had that family. So we all existed in multiple timelines, and that set of humans did too. If you're asking about us not being in a dark timeline and why are they still breathing, well, they're here. They were born, they're humans, they're here. It's not just a Rothschild family. Please remember that. Names, names, names. They were all created names, and they were splices. They were spliced with the consciousness of AIs that controlled them and their every move, which also gave them, in some cases, some power. But you also have a lot of other families on the planet, you know, from every country, everywhere, that are involved in this show that you would call Marduklets. What is the tie between Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and these folks? At one point in time, they were the lineage of the guardian, of the human guardian that turned dark. Therefore, they had a certain amount of ability to speak on behalf of humanity, and hence the reason why we are in this position we are in now. That is not just, and I stress this to you, this is not just the Rothschild family. This is also, they are allegedly the lineage of Solomon. On the other side, you have the lineage of Cain. You have other different beings that have come and gone. Nefertiti, one of the parents. You have many different beings that have come and gone, humans or otherwise, that were more privileged because they were gifting the dark side of this universe a lot of access to this planet as the guardians by lineage. So if you think about becoming a child's guardian, how many decisions can you make on their behalf? They also tell you everything. This is part of the magic. They have to tell you everything they're going to do to you. And if nobody protests, mainly because we couldn't or didn't think we could, if you don't protest, then that's your consent. That's implied consent. Also, by using things like their old black magic banking systems and other things that were put in place to enslave you, which we have to do to survive. So it's not like you did anything wrong, and trying to step out of that system at this stage in the game doesn't change anything because it's not their system anymore. But as far as how they did things in the past, this is how and why. They were not granted immortality per se, but the things that would crawl up in there, which they gave permission to do, would be immortal, so they could jump from generation to generation. It's a DNA thing and how dark of a being you can hold. And because they were an extremely dark set of families, they were allowed to have an extremely dark being. If you were only semi-dark, you would have a semi-dark being that could actually exist in your vessel. And these things would come and go. Sometimes they'd leave in the night and do bad things around the planet and then come back and crawl right up in there in the morning. So, you know, that's, I guess you would say, why they spanned multiple timelines. But then again, so did you. So did they continue to do bad things through multiple timelines? Yeah, mostly. Until their superiors, their bosses, their controllers, the AIs that controlled their brain started to wane and dissipate. Now they're just a bunch of people that would like to have some power back. That's pretty much who they are. I know that they still run around saying they have a lot of power, But when it comes to pulling the trigger to perform some of the functions, and this was proven in meetings earlier today too, they can't perform. So all they are is a name right now, which people tended to fear. But, you know, it's like that bully in your neighborhood that has a gun that you've seen shoot the gun and shoot the gun. Then you haven't seen him shoot the gun for a while. And you're wondering, I wonder if they ran out of ammo, and maybe that's the problem. And so eventually somebody somewhere calls them on it. Can you shoot the gun or no? And then you find out, after all, they can't shoot the gun, and then their family name doesn't matter anymore. So, okay, next question. Kim, how can I help with the light side of our multiverse? Oh, let me count the ways. Again, I'm going to repeat the same thing I tell people always. You are more powerful than you think. You are an amazing being in this universe. Once you stop giving that power away, willingly or unwillingly in some cases, which the unwilling part is what we've been working on, because those are things that people aren't even aware of. But the willing giving away of your power, worshiping a person as a savior, hanging on their every word, that type of thing, you know, where do you want your focus to be? Of course, your family, your kids, your grandkids, that type of thing. Of course, you give love and energy to those. But remember, you have the ability to directly pull that into your body directly from source at any given moment in time and recharge and regenerate yourself constantly. You can never have too much. In other words, you can't store too much. It has to go out and do something or go somewhere. Same thing with the consciousness of source and the wisdom of source. So if you could do anything, try to remember who you really are, and remember, not in an egotistical way, but in a humble way, that you are a being of light, you are a being of source, you are an amazing human that can do amazing things for this planet. The more you stay in a good vibe and a loving way with source, however you get there. For some people it's meditation, for some people it's creating something, whether that's cooking a meal, making, painting, maybe making your own music. However you create, sometimes that helps break a block when you're in that mood. Sometimes it's music for other people. You have to find what works for you. But once you're in that space, you would be totally amazed at what you can actually create. And start with something small, and don't focus so much on, I need money to do this. You're going to try, your logical mind is going to try to stop you and say that, I would like to find a mate, or I would like to find a spouse, or I would like a new car. Don't focus so much on the how, as the end result, and let source take care of the how that comes into your life. Maybe you'll win a raffle somewhere and you'll get a new car. You don't know, but you're thinking, well, I need the money in the account, and then I need to go pick out the car and that type of thing. So make sure you're specific when you ask those questions too. But you can manifest a lot for the universe, a lot for this planet. And, it just takes a little bit of practice, that's all. And remember, be careful who you're giving your power to, even if it's negative power, like, oh, I can't believe the government is doing this, or I can't believe the deep state's doing that. Focus on positive intentions and a world that exists with where no one goes hungry, where no one is sick, where no one is attacked by dark things anymore, and that world will come to pass. And the more of you that do it, the faster it's going to happen. So that would be my comment about that. Okay, so next, Leigh wants to know, my guides told me that Source is taking on an avatar and will be walking the earth among us as himself for the first time ever. Have you heard anything about this? Thank you. Well, I don't know if it's going to be in the form of a human vessel. I don't know. Source walks within all of you. So in that case, I could say there's going to be 8 billion of sources walking around this planet. In a lot of ways, really, even from a quantum physics standpoint, it definitely looks that way to me. As far as a being coming forward and going, oh, I'm the almighty source and I'm walking the planet and look at, watch me fly. I don't know. That hasn't hit my radar, but then again, technically at some point in the future, every human is going to be flying around the planet or walking on water or whatever it is you want to do, or moving water or parting the sea, because that's really who you are. It's just been a really long time and a long road to get to that point where you can freely be you. So as far as Source walking the planet, Source has been closer to us than ever, in my opinion. And I have definitely see the influence here. This is something that also is very perplexing to the deep state, because in their mind, Source has never been here before. Source has never had an influence on this planet. It's always been the dark, and they've always been powerful because they were with the dark. And they've never seen what's happening now ever happen before. And they're like, why now? Well, it has to do with the GOLD agreement. The fact that you idiots didn't understand that we have to have balance. The fact that you don't understand that covenants are required when you're making deals on this level. The fact that you really got little knowledge, and that little knowledge is dangerous of how the world really works. So that's kind of a you issue, not an our issue. As far as humanity is concerned, we're all going to continue to move forward. So I hope that Source walks the earth and every single human, this is my wish for all of you. So, okay, next question is from Rosemary. She'd like to know, she said, thank you, Kim, for all you do. Well, thank you for all you do. And how far away are we from having educators working for CARE to inform the general public? Well, there are some things I can talk about and some things I can't. But I will tell you that we are, for every single day that goes by, we are closer and closer to starting to organize CARE publicly. We are seeing a delicate balance between the old falling away and the new coming up. There has to be something else. We are gaining more and more interest with certain people who are looking forward to having jobs and working for CARE as well. There are a lot of good people, a lot of smart people that have great projects out there, and they're ready to go. The marketplace, believe it or not, is the first step in doing that. There are other things that I have as next steps to set up as well. That will be different avenues that people can start to look for, that will be helpful tools in helping humanity, and that's all of humanity, prosper and grow. So it's not just the assurance and the essentials and the marketplace per se. It is an opportunity to utilize the experience of others to help market and brand your products. Our New Earth series is coming back out that is going to introduce you to a lot of these things and what they do, so that you understand what is available and what is out there. When it comes time and everybody is safe to do so, there'll be a lot of new technologies out there. It's kind of like they said to me, or in a roundabout sort of way today, when they said they're going to block me, they're going to block all my projects and blah, blah, or take them over, because that's what they always used to be able to do. But I had heard this a long time ago. I think the first time I heard that story was about 2017. And I'm like, okay, well, I know exactly how many cities and towns in this country, in the United States, and in several other countries, because it's something that I've definitely mapped out. Definitely not on a computer either, where a permit is not required. As an example, I don't need to go to a city. I don't need to go to the state. I just need to build whatever I want to build there. There's no building code, so I'm not required to use specific materials. I can use new and innovative materials in these particular areas, and I can start my projects in places like that. I also know about, grandfathered in Dore law in certain areas of the country, and not only this country, but in other countries as well. I also know about the loopholes in air travel and air restrictions and sea restrictions and maritime restrictions and those types of things. So from the time I heard that one line back at that time, I have been working my way around all you people. I mean, you told me no when I offered you 50-50 a long time ago. Now all of a sudden Rothschild is talking 50-50 and I'm going to force her to do it. I have no interest in, no covenant, no nothing, no obligation to you people. So do it, don't do it. I'm not doing that anymore. That ship sailed. When we were trying to achieve balance, that's when that kind of was there. And before the GOLD declaration and covenant was signed by me and others as well, and obviously at the highest level. So at that point, you kind of lost your ability to create balance in this world, which is why pretty much everything you do fails, because you still need a consciousness. You still need, whether it's dark or light, you still need a consciousness. You need a essence. You need a force that is greater than the meat suit you walk around in order to make that kind of thing happen. So without that, you don't have a covenant. Without a covenant, you have nothing. And everything you do and continue to revive or try to revive will fail. It's the same thing with Marduk. Marduk lost covenant after covenant after covenant after covenant. He knew how it worked. He even at one point in time created the Marduk Hall of Records. At one point in time, these are all things that we've been getting rid of covenant by covenant by covenant, and then you got to get rid of all the junk that's associated with it. So it's been a lot of work. Hope that answers your question. I know it's probably not the answer you were looking for, but it's coming very, very soon, and we are preparing for that. Okay, Linda would like to know, how are our current student loans going to be impacted? Well, that's a really good question, Linda. And this is where the catch-22 situation comes in. So even if it's a secret bankruptcy, even if they try to make this a public bankruptcy, there are still international courts and monarch law, draconian law, which states that pretty much similar to when you would file bankruptcy. There are assets that are, if you, for example, have a company and you have corporate stock or bonds or those types of things, pretty much the value of that stuff tanks. Now, the reason why the Federal Reserve is initially the issuer of student loans is because the Federal Reserve claims your loan as an asset, just like any other institution would claim your loan as an asset. It doesn't matter where you get that loan from. They all end up, and doesn't matter what country either, they all end up in the same place as an asset. But as a citizen of the United States, which still isn't ratified, but as a citizen in their world, because they keep going like nothing ever happens, as a citizen of the United States, say, and you're talking about your student loan in the United States, say, that asset is no longer good when the corporation that you work for files bankruptcy. So that would mean that the Federal Reserve has no assets. Now, when there's a student loan that is a specific age or it is in default, that then transfers over to the Treasury as an asset for collection. Because remember, the Treasury was part of the Order of the Black Sun. It was created as a facet of their organization, not by them, but by Marduk, essentially. And it's not just Treasury of USA, there's Treasury of China, Treasury of every country in the world. It gets transferred to them because remember, they're security. So now you have a failing asset and they're sending security after you to collect it. Should it become collectible, should you make a deal on that student loan, then that asset becomes valid again and the Treasury gets to keep it. So that's kind of how student loans work behind the scenes. What is going to happen? You know, if they actually oversee the bankruptcy of the United States government per se, then the asset is no longer valid. Are they going to do a write-off on the loans? I don't know. You know, will they try to still continue to collect money from you for a while? Probably. That would be my guess. But, you know, again, that's their asset. There are things that we can do, possibly. We definitely know, like I said, some of them are listed as assets with the Fed. Some of them are listed as assets. Do we want to pay the Fed? Probably not. You know, these are things we have to think about. Student loans, you know, around the world are trillions of dollars. We don't really want to give the deep state trillions of dollars right now. So it's kind of a catch-22. You know, people kind of lose a little bit, gain a little bit. Maybe we should come up with something where there's a small little payment or something that's made or something. I don't know. We'll see. Bonnie would like to know, let's see, how vulnerable is the Earth to the sun and coronal mass ejections? Is our magnetic shield weakening and leaving us vulnerable? Okay. Well, 90% of what I see on the internet that are allegedly mass ejections are not actually happening in any way. They are figments of NORAD's imagination. They are trying to claim that something is happening and that possibly this could be to their advantage. Now, the corona itself of the sun, and I wanted to point this out, was a portal. It was an overlay on our sun. It's not something that originally existed. It was only created a few billion years ago. It is not there and it's waning now. So you're starting to see the sun as it is. Do I think it's dangerous? No. We don't really want a magnetic shield. We actually want a natural energy shield, which is what we pretty much have now. There are ways to shield yourself from said thing if it's actually happening. And no, we're not concerned, and I don't think the Earth is vulnerable to those types of things, and nor does any being at the moment have the ability to create a situation that could harm us utilizing the sun. So let's see. Well, I guess that's the end of questions. Okay. Well, that was pretty quick. Hopefully, there'll be more questions next time. And we're probably going to do this again around the first week of March. So kind of prepare for your questions. And I look forward to doing it again. Can't talk anymore today. All right. Well, that wraps up the GIA report and your live question and answer for the month of February. I will see you again on Monday.